have a little fun today?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I have had a traveling troubadour following me throughout New Hampshire. And, you know, upon the death of David Bowie, anybody here know who David Bowie was? Anybody? Okay. And so I sang a little bit about David Bowie, and then he, with the traveling troubadour, was with me, and he jumped up and he played an incredible ground control to Major Tom. It was beautiful, Ziggy Stardust, the whole deal. And I saw him not long ago, and I said, you know, there's another song I'd like you to learn. And it is one of my favorite songs, and I've been told we can't play it because we haven't asked permission. Are you getting ready? So I want to tell a story. I want to tell a story. Oh. So I was in Cleveland. Okay, so I was in Cleveland for the mayor's State of the City address about 5 years ago. And I'm at this table, and the mayor's getting ready to speak, and this guy next to me, he says, "Look up there in that balcony." And I said, "Yeah, so what?" He said, "You don't understand. When I was 14 years old, I climbed out of my bedroom window. I slid down the drain pipe from the second floor, ran across to my buddy's house, got in the car, his parents were driving, he and I went, and I was sitting up in that balcony, and I saw the Beatles." He said, "When I got home, I climbed back up the drain pipe, and when I came in the window, my mother caught me and beat the living daylights out of me, but it was worth it all." But one of my favorite songs, it's an interesting story. George Harrison invited Eric Clapton to his house for breakfast. And he said to Clapton, "I just want you to come here, but you got to make sure you come here before the sun comes up, because I've written a special song." And that song is... Here Comes the Sun. Let's hear what you got here. You better have it today.
Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. Here comes the sun, global warming. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright.
All right. Thank you. You know what? I think that was pretty good, huh? I'm going to get you to work on those vocals just a little bit. That was pretty darn good.
Sprung it on me, man.
I know. So Senator Portman and I have been friends for 1,000 years. He's got a great family and a great wife, and he's one of the most respected United States senators that we've had in recent times, and I hope you give him a round of applause for flying up here. And it's great to be here. Just to tell you a little bit, Rob's covered a lot of it. I want to just tell you a little bit about me, and that is that I grew up in a little town outside of Pittsburgh called Keys Rocks. My father carried mail on his back, and my father, he basically stuck his nose in everybody's business, and it's the way it should be today. I mean, he knew everybody's problems, everybody's joys, and many of those people came to see me upon the passing of my father to talk about so many stories about how John the mailman had involved himself in their life in a positive way. His father was a coal miner, and he'd go down in the mine. I couldn't imagine being a coal miner. He'd go down, way down into the mine, and he would mine all day, and he would come up, and they would look at his haul, and they would say, "You brought a lot of peat up here today, not enough coal." And they just wouldn't pay him. And it was hard on my grandfather. My Uncle George said that he would come home at night with some of his lunch, because there were a lot of kids in the family. And Uncle George said they would eat part of the lunch and they could taste the coal mine in the lunch. And My father said he used to go down to the corner market and get some bread. And he would be in there, and the guy would say, okay, you got the bread. I'll put it on your tab. There was no tab. And there was just a beautiful story about a guy in Moon Township, right outside of Pittsburgh. He found out this lady was having trouble with her furnace. She called him, and he started telling her how to fix the furnace. I mean, she had no clue, any more than I would have known how to fix the furnace. He went over to her house. The bill was $180 for fixing that furnace. And he charged her $1 because his father used to deliver the milk back years ago during the Depression. Got it, sir? Charged him $1 for that milk. He said, I did it for my dad, and I did it for the guy that served him. I mean, that's kind of where I came from. My mother's mother, she couldn't speak English. She had a little bit of English, but she always found like a silver dollar for me when we went to the school picnic at Kennywood Park. And my mother and father always told me, Johnny, you just go change the world and make the place better for you or there. I don't care where you are, I don't care where you go, just make it better. And in McKees Rocks, we didn't get intimidated. I mean, we respect our elders, we respect the minister, we respect the teacher, but we're not intimidated people. In fact, if you ever brought your football team to play us, you could beat us, we'd break every window on your bus, just so you know. It was hard to schedule football games after that. And my buddy Tim Bainbridge is here. He came in from, and it's the same neighborhood, wasn't it, Tim? The same one. And what I learned in that whole world, because it's been hard for some people to know me, to adjust to me. Am I right, Rob? It's hard to adjust to me. I'm going to look at a problem. I'm going to go fix it. And no ideology or party boss or business or anybody big is going to tell me what to do. And that's why we have such a great organization. Because I've been fortunate enough to be able to be surrounded by people who just think one basic thing. I want to be part of something bigger than myself. And when you drive people in the right direction and you do it honestly, it's amazing the kind of crowds that you can gather and the kind of changes that you can bring. And that's kind of what I've been doing all of my career. I never thought I'd be running for president. But everything has just kind of led me there. And you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. And that's kind of why I'm here. This is, I've not had that many town halls yet. This is only my 85th. So that's pretty good, 85. And we're loving it. We're loving being out here. And I'm going to take your questions. A couple other things I want to say. I was just sitting here with my friends. They're famous. They're famous because, where was that? Where is that? Yeah, should I walk in there? Okay. I was able to have my picture taken with them. So I now have become famous with them because of them. But I'm sitting here with them, and I'm watching. I mean, look at this. Rob? Shays, Gordon, look at this. Look at it. That's our debt going up. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to be 19 in the blink of an eye, and it's unbelievable. This number, this is the morality number, because that's what we put on our kids to pay. So, kiddo, we want to thank you for the party we're having. It's very, give me a rock. Very nice of you to pay for that party. You exploded? Come on, explode that rock. There we go. So, there was a time, according to my friend Congressman Shays, who was on the budget committee with me, when that number stopped going up. And that was when we got the budget balance 4 years in a row. And this number went down, because we paid down $500 billion of the national debt. Well, why does it matter? Well, the morality issue is simple. But the other issue is, you know, our purpose, all of us politicians, our purpose fundamentally is to create an environment for job creation. Because when people get jobs, they realize their destiny, their families are stronger, community's stronger, everything's stronger. And when that number stops going up, it sends a signal to people who want to create jobs that it's okay. And when that number keeps going up, people say, well, my goodness, that means somebody's going to whack me upside the head. I better just sit on my wallet and I'm not taking any chances. And that's why that number is so serious. In the first 100 days, because you heard a lot about, and I appreciate it, Rob covered all that history, let me tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to send a bill to the Congress that's going to freeze all federal regulations for 1 year, except for health and safety. And the reason we do that is there a small business person in there?
Yeah.
Where? How's it feel when they regulate you? Pretty good? It can kill small business. Expensive. Keeps you from hiring one more person or investing. What is your business? Engineering. You got to always be investing in engineering. So, you know, when we overburden him with regulations that don't make sense, you don't mind regulations as long as they're not goofy, right? Right. You got to have common sense regulations, but we've overregulated. We've overregulated to the point where the little banks in your neighborhoods could go away. And we all like that television show Cheers, because in Cheers, everybody knew our name. And when you go to the community bank and you need a loan, you want to know somebody there that knows you. And those banks are starting to disappear because we've overregulated. So I will send a bill to freeze regulations for 1 year. And then, Rob, I want to send a bill that says that anything over $100 million proposed by the bureaucrats, you guys have to vote on. How come we don't do that now? We should. And stop all these regulations and make the Congress the lawmakers, not the unelected bureaucrats. And so I'm going to give them that bill. And then I think we should review every regulation in the country. We do it in Ohio. Did you know that? Common sense initiative. We look at everything. So regulatory is going to go first 100 days. Secondly, we're going to cut taxes. You have to cut taxes. We're going to take the individual taxes down to 28, 25, 10, and the capital gains at 15. And then we're going to take the business taxes down to 25, and we're going to let businesses write off the investment that they make in plant and equipment. And then we're not going to tax these profits double in Europe. We're going to bring their money home so they invest here and not in Europe, because they invest there now with this money. We need to have it here. That's going up there also. And then we're going to have a plan that freezes all non-defense spending, more money for the military while we reform the Pentagon. Medicare will grow from 7 to 5 and Medicaid 5 to 3, and that will go up to them as well. And that will lead us to economic growth, a balanced budget, and higher wages. And then I'm going to send them a border bill too, where we're going to finish the border. We'll create a guest worker program for people to come in, work, and go home. And for the 11.5 million who got here illegally, if they haven't broken the law since they've been here, we'll make them pay a fine, back taxes, and give them a path to legalization, but not to citizenship. Now that's in the first 100 days while I'm flying all over the world trying to tell people who we are as Americans. And then after that, I'm going to start to call the mothers and fathers of the members of Congress so I can suck up to them a little bit, because we're going to need their votes. And then we're going to work in terms of pulling everybody together. And by the way, in the first 100 days, I'll probably send a Social Security bill up there so that we can keep the people who are getting the benefits, you know, getting what they have and leaving it like it is, and then beginning to change the system so those who have high retirement income will get a little less Social Security, so everybody else who so depends on it will get their full benefit. We got to get that done as well, and we got to get some Democrats to support it. Now that's just for kind of thinking here. And by the way, in the budget we're going to send welfare back to the states, Medicaid back to the states, job training back to the states, transportation back to the states, and welfare back to the states, where you can run these programs, okay? Can you do it? I think you can run the programs here in New Hampshire. And so that all within 100 days. Pretty aggressive agenda. But we can't wait, because you got about 100 days to, you know, to push a lot of things through the window of opportunity. So, that's all I have to say. I think I'll just leave now. Thank you all very much for coming. Okay, so I'll take some polite applause and then I will take some questions. Okay? I never take the hand that goes up first after 84 town hall meetings.
I came from Ohio.
Definitely not going there now. Okay, right here. Do you have a question? I thought you were raising your hand. Oh, you were itching. Right back here, sir, and then I'll come to you. Thank you. Good night.
The terrorists use leverage against us. They've spent millions of dollars attacking us, and we've spent trillions of dollars defending ourselves against them. How can the President of the United States change that leverage position?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by all that, but here's what I believe. To protect the homeland, if you want to protect the homeland, we have these things called the Joint Terrorism Task Forces. And they're made up of the FBI and Homeland Security. I have very strong confidence in the FBI. And then combined with that is the state and local law enforcement. And they're in all the states. And their job is to do human intelligence and disrupt plots. And they do one heck of a job. Every once in a while, something will get through. But what do they need? They need the resources. They got to have the money. And I don't hear any complaints that they don't have enough. If they told me they didn't have enough, I'd get them what they needed. And then they need the tools to be able to hear when people are planning and when they're plotting. Now, there's a few issues there that they have to have resolved. But frankly, it's better for that to be discussed somewhere else than in front of television cameras, because it's got to be fixed. That's how you manage that. In terms of what the war we're against, you know what it is. It's and we got to remember, we got to put this into context. You're not very old, but the gentleman sitting next to you, he's not very old. He's about, how old are you, sir?
Me?
No. With the cross.
76.
76. You remember when you were in, you would have been in about the 10th grade, and you went into a cloakroom and put your head into the cloakroom or under the desk because we thought we were going to have a nuclear war during the Cuban Missile. Do you remember that? What did they do with you? To me, they went in the cloakroom. Where did they put you?
Put me under the desk.
Under the desk. We had thousands and thousands of nuclear warheads aimed at us to destroy us. And we stayed calm. We dealt with it. We had tense moments, obviously, but we were fine. And then all of a sudden, the wall fell down. What a remarkable and marvelous thing that was. And we began to see the former Soviet Union fall apart. And no matter how much Humpty Dumpty Putin tries to put it together again, he will not be successful if we're strong. And that passed us. Those were tough times. Now we face a different enemy. Now this enemy is basically wears no uniform, and they have an ideology that if you're living, then they're not doing their job. Basically, that's their ideology. So we got to take the fight to them. And of course, we all talk about ISIS, and everybody wants to go get ISIS, and I've been talking about it for a year. And we got to beat them in the air and on the ground. And we got to have the same kind of coalition that we had in the first Gulf War. Had the Arabs, had the West, took Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, came home. And it's the same coalition that has to destroy ISIS. But there's many radical groups around the world right now. And I believe that you not only defeat them militarily, wherever they are, but you also have to be in a position to win the war of ideas. With a lot of people, there are people who think in the Middle East, in the Far East, that we actually created 9/11 ourselves. Did you know that? There are people that think that. They got to hear the truth. And we got to get our moderate Arab friends and all of us to start sending the messages. Social media, every kind we can, to try to tell them that joining a cult of death it's going to take you to hell. And we believe in history and women's rights, and we believe in the sanctity of law and the ability to protest. Those are the things we believe in that we've got to tell these people. And then, I tell you, the Saudis right now, they spend money, giving money to these radical preachers. They got to knock it off. And now that we're producing our own energy, we got a lot more leverage to tell them to knock it off. I mean, that's crazy, right? They made a deal with the devil when they got founded. It's time to end the deal. No more radicalizing. And then, sir, I think that we have to be very, very careful about one other thing. And that is these groups who have no uniforms and no territory. We have to keep these dangerous materials out of their hands. And Rob, I'll tell you something, you guys have got to find out whether they are intercepting these ships and these airplanes that are flying out of North Korea. Because I'm not sure that the inspection regime is being carried out. That worries me more than anything. Because you see, with the Russians, they knew that if they messed with, they blew us up, we'd blow them up. And I can even tell you that I've learned that the Iranians understand, you mess with the Israelis and try to hurt them, they'll blow you off the face of the map. But these groups who don't wear a uniform and don't occupy territory, don't have a country, some of them think that the best thing they could do is blow us up. So the proliferation of this material is a very serious business. Good intelligence with all these countries telling us what they hear, right? That's critical as well, all over the world. And I'll tell you one last thing. I think we have an opportunity now to do something we haven't been able to do. The Saudis know they're under the gun. The Jordanians know they're under the gun. The Egyptians know they're under the gun. The Gulf states know they're under the gun. The French, the Brits, the Belgians, everybody, the Germans, everybody knows they're under the gun. So we got to work together. And then we also know that in the Far East, the South Koreans, the Japanese, they need us. That's why we need that trade agreement, to get everybody to pull together on that. So maybe we can make a new world, not by turning it over to this United Nations, by us being a leader again. I've never kind of answered this thing. I've done 85 town halls, and this is new. Thanks for asking the question, and I think you asked me what time it was, and I told you how the watch was made. But that's what you get here, okay? Yes, right here.
I guess we're close enough without a mic. So I work for a global health delivery nonprofit that was on the front lines of the Ebola epidemic.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we saw and contributes to that debt clock, was luckily a $5 billion investment in Ebola, right, from the U.S. government. But we know now it would have only cost $1.6 billion to invest in strengthening health systems to begin with, and kind of move that way. So I'm wondering, as president, if you would lead an initiative to strengthen health systems of our allies and partners by investing in 500,000 new community health workers around the world who are paid by 2020.
Huh. Well, I never heard that before. It's something to think about. I mean, that's an interesting, You working for them?
Yeah, not here, just I'm just personally interested.
Okay. Well, look, here's the first thing. While you want to balance the budget, you have to have certain priorities. And I think that the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, has to have a significant amount of more money to work on diseases. In diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, ALS, pancreatic cancer. And you know what I heard is that the universities take this money and they use a lot of it to cover their overhead, and that's bunk. You're going to get that money, do your research, and maybe research into the possibility of pandemics, this Zika, that we're learning about now is a serious, serious matter. It's an interesting idea, but it would be part of foreign aid, it seems to me. And see, a lot of foreign aid is wasted. And we got to make sure that if we send money to other countries, it doesn't get used by corrupt leaders, and it doesn't get flushed down the drain. See, I think a lot of this whole foreign aid is corporate welfare. In other words, corporations make money by building dams, for example, that no one in the darn country wants. So we have to clean up foreign aid. But the idea of we got to hear more about what you're thinking, because it's not a bad idea to have a coordination. And you're right about Ebola. We thought we had it in Ohio. And fortunately, we didn't, and it's all settled down. But very, very interesting question. Okay, so we'll check it out for you. Yes, sir, right here.
Hello.
Who you here with?
Here's my dad.
I couldn't tell that you look exactly like your dad, with just more hair. Go ahead.
So I'm a first-time voter.
Oh, thank you.
Where do you go to school?
I go to Drake High School.
Okay.
So anyway, a big issue one of my most important issues is climate change.
Yeah.
And I have heard some things from the Democrats. I haven't heard a whole lot from the Republicans. And I feel like it hasn't really been a big priority for any of the Republican
Republican candidates, so I was wondering if you could weigh in on the
Sure.
issue and what you would do.
Yeah, look, here you got your dad recording you. Now that one is going to show you in about 10 years. And you're going to say, should I have cut my hair a little shorter yet? Now, here's the thing, kiddo. More and more young people are expressing their concern about the environment, and that's good. Do I believe that human beings affect the climate? I do. But we don't quite know how much. But that doesn't mean there aren't things that we need to do. And one of the things that we need to do is to develop our renewable energy. And our renewable energy is solar, and wind, and geothermal, and efficiency. People don't get into efficiency because, you know, it's the extra dollar per square foot in the house, and we just pass that up. So efficiency, though, is something we have to think about. If we had been involved in energy efficiency 25 years ago, we would be in a much better shape today. So we can't make up everything that we wish we had done, but we got to get about it. So the problem with solar energy, you know what the problem with solar is? If the sun doesn't shine, it doesn't work real well. You know that, right? And if the wind doesn't blow, the turbines don't turn.
This is not what George Harrison said.
Yeah, okay, all right, there we go. All right, come on, you had your moment in the sun. Okay, so but here's what I think. We have to develop it. The price of solar is coming down. Wind is still expensive, still being subsidized. We're not going to walk away from wind. But the real big thing that could happen in this country is the development of battery technology. Now, I have a friend, he's rich, and he drives one of these, what is it? Tesla. It's the coolest car I've ever seen. There's like no engine. Okay, did you know that in the Tesla? It's a battery-operated car. I mean, you get in, you want to turn the thing to hear the engine. There's no engine. It's just a battery. But it'll only run 300 or 400 miles before the battery doesn't work anymore. This development of battery technology, fuel cell technology, hydrogen technology, these things are really exciting, and I think they're coming. So in the process, let's develop the renewables, okay? Let's be aware of the fact that we as human beings are on this earth, in my opinion, to manage the Lord's creation, but not to worship Him. But I like the fact that more and more young people are starting to take positions on the climate, they're taking positions on the student loans. We need an active group of young people who believe things. So, that's my answer, and I'm going to stick to it.
Thank you, Governor.
All right.
Governor Kasich.
Oh, yes, you want to have another crack at me?
No, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, okay, you're very welcome. Yeah. Here's what I like. Whenever an adult says to you, thank you, the answer is not no problem. It's you're welcome. Am I right, ma'am? Okay, thank you. You'll win her over. You will win her over. You know, one thing about young people is when they show respect, you stand out. You right, Dad? You stand out. You say, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. And I mean, it just makes a difference. I mean, my job's not just to run for office, it's to introduce music, it's to teach manners. I mean, I got it all going on here. Okay, who else? Sir, what is that hat right there? It's a beauty. Well, I'm not going to take it from you. No, no, he is a Marine. I will not even try to take it. Okay, go ahead.
In all the things that I've learned about you,
Yeah?
one of the things that I would have to say is, in all of that, you are a gentleman.
Right.
And because you are a gentleman,
Right.
if you reach the point where you are running against Hillary Clinton in a general election, and I don't mean this to be funny, folks, Hillary is a female. Well, how will you take her and expose her in the other party for what they are without coming across as something you shouldn't come across?
Yeah. That's a really excellent question. I think, look, here's what I think the problem is with Hillary. Hillary is she's a poll-driven, focus-driven, calculating person like a lot of politicians. So we're gonna, remember the Keystone Pipeline, that whole debate? Now, she came out against the Keystone Pipeline. How did she decide that? Well, if I build the pipeline, I'll make the AFL-CIO happy. But if I don't build the pipeline, I will make the environmentalists happier, and they're more important to me than the union. You know what I did when I heard that? I was walking in and somebody said, "What do you think?" I said, "Tell the AFL-CIO that help's coming on the way. Kasich's going to be president. We're building a pipeline." In other words, I believe that a person gets elected president on the basis of their vision and their ability to define themselves against the person who's running. But the vision trumps everything. The vision, the solid ideas, and the experience. I mean, this whole thing about the server and all that stuff, of course it's going to be an issue. But what's going to fundamentally matter to people is what is the vision, what is the record, has everyone fared better under one person as opposed to another? Is it an opportunity candidate? And I think that's fundamentally how you do it. Sir, let me tell you, if I'm fortunate to come out of New Hampshire strong, I'm going to be the nominee of the party. Because I can, listen, think about this. I can't believe it. I got 7 out of 8 New Hampshire newspapers endorsing me. And then I got the Boston Globe. That means I can go to Boston for the rest of my life. This is fantastic. And I'm going to set up my campaign headquarters in Massachusetts in the North End.
Good.
Paradiso's. You ever been there? Fantastic, okay? Then, sir, yesterday or today, I got endorsed by the New York Times.
Right.
Okay? Well, what does all that mean? First of all, I can't believe it, Rob. You can't either. No, I mean all of them. It's just been nice. And you know, I want to tell you all, a couple days ago, I was in my room, and I thought about all this, and I cried. You know why? I can handle it, for sure. But something deep inside of me touched me. It's amazing to come from where I came from and have these wonderful things said about me. And rather than driving me up, it's driven me to thank the Lord for what He's done for me. But you know, the New York Times, I was on with Maria Bartiromo this morning, and she said, "What do you think about the New York Times?" And I said, "Well, what would you think if the New York Times said you were a great commentator?" She said, "I'd love it." And I said, "How about your mama? What would she think?" What it indicates is an ability to broaden the appeal of the conservative message. That's what it's really about. And see,